Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Succession Season 3, Episode 3. HBO delivered the goods in this episode, but at the same time, I'm actually kind of uncomfortable after watching it, if I'm being totally honest. And that is nothing to say about its quality.
No, I completely agree. There was some really difficult material going on in this episode. Very good episode, but
Yeah,
very difficult material.
I think this is a very important sort of step in all of us remembering that while these characters are really entertaining to watch and they're compelling, they're not good people. You don't want to be friends with him. It's sort of like when you watch Breaking Bad and you get so drawn into Walter White's story, but at the end of the day, Walter White is still a murderer. Like, Kendall Roy is a despicable human being who does despicable things, and yet we're supposed to be drawn into the story and we just leave feeling like emotionally just like weird and drained.
Absolutely. But before we get into this video too much further, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are here every Sunday talking about Succession. We also have Dexter coming up, Yellowstone, Power Book 2. There's all kinds of good stuff coming up at the channel. So hit that subscribe button. Also, happy Halloween, everybody. It is Halloween. So if you are at home watching Succession like us,
Yeah,
that's awesome. Thank you so much. Head over to our Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. We have a little bit of Halloween stuff up today.
only treats. There are no tricks over there.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Okay, all right. Can we talk Kindle?
Yeah, let's talk Kendall and Shiv together because that last episode, Kendall really ripped into all of his siblings, but I really feel like Shiv got it the worst. Like it was bad.
I think Kindle's a very emotional person, and he's the sort of person who he's gonna by default go after the person who hurts him the most because he's
Mhm.
retaliatory, he is immature in that sort of way. And I think because he feels like Shiv betrays him the hardest, that she is the person who he's going to have to go
Yeah.
after more than anyone.
Yeah, and I think he respects her and needs her the most. So the more that she pushes back, the more he becomes his father's son. That last episode, the way he tore into her, I was like, I see Logan all over this. So to see this episode where they're sort of going back and forth and it's getting uglier and more uncomfortable and like uglier, it was really tough to watch.
It was so unbelievably hard to watch. And at times, like, I have a lot of questions now as to where certain things are going to go, especially with Kendall and Shiv. So Shiv gets the promotion to be, president, and all that entails, which really just means apparently you have to speak in front of, all these different investors, important people at the company, deliver your speech. This is where Kendall just so loses me because it's one thing to just play really loud, ridiculous music over someone when they're talking. But that specific song by Nirvana, I can't, I don't want to say the name here because it's not a YouTube friendly word, but the implications of using that song in that moment are just so disgusting that I don't know how that doesn't become the story as much as anything Shiv wrote in that letter.
No, I absolutely agree. It was really tough to watch that scene,
Yeah,
especially since we've all watched all these seasons. All these kids are trying to be sort of the top dog. They want their father's respect, they want their father's position. They've all sort of been lobbying for it. And Shiv is one of the people that has really been lobbying for it the hardest. And she actually kind of almost had it a couple of times. Now she's got this presidential spot here,
yeah.
enough that she's actually going to be standing up and talking to everybody, preparing this, ready for this. For Kendall to do that at that time to her, like, I think Kendall was really thinking like it could have been anybody. That could have been Roman, that could
Yeah.
have been Jerry. It just doesn't matter. He's there to cause problems for Logan. It doesn't matter who is in the line of fire. But because it was Shiv and they just had this like really bad falling out, and
Yeah.
the apology at that journalism awards thing, apology,
Yeah.
He said nothing really. That was really bad too.
No.
But I mean, it was tough to see that that's who he decided he was going to do this to.
The moment I knew things were going to go really bad for them too in this episode was at that gala, the journalism awards, where Kendall, he calls her full government name. Like the moment he says Siobhan and not Shiv, it's just like, oh no.
Okay.
Any person that has a nickname and you never hear the government name, the government is not the only time we'll talk about the government in this episode, but like that, it's always a problem.
Oh, for sure. It's like if your parents are ever calling you by your full name, you know that you've messed up.
Speaking of people messing up, like this is the emotional roller coaster of Kendall Roy, because I've never hated him more than in the moment playing that song while Shiv is up there. But at the same time, when he is like, I'm going into the office, I don't care, Lisa, I don't care anybody else. In my head at that moment, I was like, yes, Kendall, be the agent of chaos. Give us the goods. I was so happy.
I was really happy too. And I was kind of disappointed that the show made the decision to have Greg tell everybody that he was coming in. I was looking forward to him coming in and them finding out like literally the moment he's already like downstairs or going up the elevator, that was when they were going to find out. I was like, oh, here we go, this is going to be really good. And then that call came in where it was like, oh, Greg is just told. I'm like,
Greg, you continue to disappoint this season. You've got all this information. You're not doing anything. You're just like sitting in a lawyer's office.
No, I agree. I think that they've used Greg really well in past seasons, but this season, not as much. It feels like kind of they don't have enough for him to do, and he's kind of being the comic relief. Oh, look at my watch. This whole story about this watch. Where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm getting some chuckles, but I feel like his character could really be interesting in the thick of all of this because he is the person that has the papers.
Yeah.
So and Tom knows that he had the papers, but he could suspect that maybe Tom's not an idiot,
No.
that maybe Greg has kept something, because if Kendall is this sure of himself, he has to have something.
There are two Kendall specific moments in all of this that I really, really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
The first one being the do we let him in the elevator or do we not let him in the elevator battle? That I could have watched another 5 minutes of that and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned Tom. I really like Tom in this episode. Like, this is one of my favorite Tom episodes in a bit. And just like Tom and Kendall, where Tom is like sort of being the bodyguard, sort of not, and kind of acting like the friend.
Oh, that conversation in the office with Tom and Kendall, where they're lobbying back and forth, and they're like, "You're not going to tell me. Oh, you're not going to tell me. You want to tell me what you got going on?" No, it was really well done. Very well written, very well performed.
And then you have Kendall, of course, doing the whole Tom, I think you're really smart. You know, I think you're really good. Him trying to like cast a line out there.
Yeah, I think you could really be something, kind of, if you want to come over to me. And we know that Tom has put himself in a very, very tough spot where he suggested while he was drinking to Shiv that maybe he would go to Logan and be the fall guy. He also wants Logan's approval really, really badly. And at first Shiv was like, no. But maybe this is genius. Yeah. So she's not really protecting him either. He decides to give this to Logan, who eventually is like, oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was just like, why were you doing this? So the moment that he went and was like, I need a lawyer, let's lawyer up, I was like, okay, so he knows that he's really in trouble. And at the end of this episode, when, you know, the FBI was showing up and then he was kind of whispering in his ear, I thought the whisper in the ear was, you're going to jail.
I did too.
He needs you to take the fall. FBI is here and you're going down. The only issue I kind of found with this is Tom was on the table as an option last season. Yeah. And Logan dismissed it and said, listen, like, this is too big now. Yeah. They're going to know that some of the higher ups knew about this. Tom is not high enough on this pecking order to go down for this. Like, he just isn't. They're going to want someone bigger than this, and that's why Kendall was suggested. So why is Tom okay now?
I don't know. I wonder if they're just really, really desperate at this point, and they just can't. Because yeah, he's really not big enough yet, and that's where hot take alert, everyone. Tom should go with Kendall. Like Tom should just run amok of this whole operation because in the Waystar Royco world, Tom is never going to be more than, I don't know, number 4, number 5, maybe on the food chain.
Oh, you think at the Kendall Roy
business
here that Tom is going to be his number 2?
You could be maybe number 3. Like you could probably get up 1 or 2. It's sort of like on Survivor, where you're like the 5th person in an alliance of 5, and you can go join this other alliance, and you can be the 4th person there. Well, guess what? You're moving up a place in the world. Tom, are you really gonna be okay just watching these people in the Roy family over on Logan's side fight and fight and fight, and then you're just left picking up the wreckage of everything?
Yeah, especially since he knows that Logan throws people away like tissues. So, and he's not blood. I mean, even the way that he's talking about Jerry hasn't even done anything to him. She's still completely loyal to him. She's making some decisions, but they're really small decisions. She's still just holding the place for Logan. She hasn't gone crazy with power. Nothing has happened, and he is freaking out.
Yeah. If you stay there, Tom, you in big trouble. You're in really, really big trouble. Also, I love Tom so much for the now everyone, I don't want this to ruin the evening, but federal law enforcement is that it's like,
but we're being raided, that's all. Enjoy your salmon.
That he is like the gif of the guy standing in front of the building on fire. Nothing to see here, folks.
Okay, so let's get back to Shiv and Kendall here, because the next sort of big thing that ended up happening after that Nirvana song played, she went and spit in his book, where I was kind of like, I'm not always on really anybody's side except Roman, but I was like, Shiv, I completely understand. She came in, she saw all the speakers and was like, no, like, oh, come on.
I get all that with Shiv, and really, I understand everything that Shiv did, because, like I said, what Kendall did was disgusting. Like, I would be furious beyond words too. I mean, yes, there is of course a debate about, I understand her fully, writing everything that she wrote, wanting to get that off her chest, wanting to kind of get some sort of emotional healing after what Kendall just did. Sending it is a very big step. Putting it out there is something that is difficult to walk back on a personal level. I get it. On a business professional level, that's where I don't know where that's going to go now.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I mean, he kind of ruined her professionally in a few ways as well by playing that Nirvana song at the very first speech, the very first time she's ever going to be president. It was such a humiliation. She can never walk back that first impression. It's just, it's gone. So her then retaliating this way, I hate to say it, but I didn't feel bad for Kendall. And a lot of times during this show, I do feel bad for Kendall. Even though Kendall is not the greatest person, I feel bad for him a lot in the first 2 seasons. But after what he did, I was just like, you get what you get, man. This is what you did. And what did you expect to happen? Like, what did you think Shiv was going to do?
That is the same thing I wondered. Because it's like, you played a humiliating, awful song in front of her at a very big public moment. Where did you think she was gonna go? Like, did you think she was just gonna be like, okay? Like, you know that your sister is very, very smart. You know that she's someone who is going to retaliate. She has that gene within her to do it. I don't know if he just has like so much hubris and he's just like gassed up his head with how like awesome his persona is and how people love him that he didn't think anything would stick.
Yes, that's why he plays good tweet, bad tweet, and other nonsense like this. And he's really crazy about a show that's like dragging him to filth. Like, he's just really undone. There was no real plan here. He did this thing last minute where he decided to hang his dad out to dry, and since then it's all just been the seat of his pants. And him and Shiv have had a pretty back and forth relationship. I mean, he completely berated her in
Yeah.
private in the last episode, and she didn't do anything. They met at the Journalism Awards. He gave nothing of an apology, and she was like, I accept, we'll move forward. But this felt like a very different thing that happened. So when she ended up putting out that letter, you get what you get, Kendall.
Yeah, you can't, it's hard to have any sympathy at all for him. He put himself in a position where he could end up being humiliated back. That's exactly what happened, and so he was off gallivanting around at at Sophie's show here, where he was gonna be this hip, look how cool I am, taking the joke sort of guest,
Yeah.
hobnobbing with the writers because he knew a guy who may know him.
Yeah, and I kind of get where he's coming from because we do live in an age where, bad press is good press, good press is good press. It all just, if he basically said, as long as people are talking about you,
Yeah.
this is pretty good. You want to be in the headlines. Oh, people aren't talking about me. Okay, I need to go on this show. Let them roast me. Yeah, show that I have a good sense of humor. All of that.
And then I think once that letter comes out, it does emotionally, I think it breaks him. I think it makes him sort of realize, oh, yeah, I have been completely out of control. I have just been doing things for however I want to see them. And now I am at this point of no return where all I have is this server room that's not even really mine that I'm just going to sit in and be sad.
You get what you get. Okay, so let's talk about Roman, who is my favorite character. This was a good episode for him too, because one of the things that I like about his character so much, of why he's my favorite character on the show, because yeah, he comes across as rich and bratty and entitled, and sure, but they all do. But it's the deeper stuff inside of him that is actually starting to come to the surface in this episode a little more than we've really seen. I mean, we've seen touches of it here and there where, yeah, he's got really bad neglect issues from both of his parents. They've both neglected him really badly, and he's built up enough of a tough enough skin, as all of the Roy children have,
Yeah.
but he is broken, like really broken. It is not a coincidence that the person that he's attracted to and wants to be in a relationship with is Jerry, who is, an older woman. And it seems like it's kind of creepy or whatever, but he's looking for that acceptance. So when he's forced to do this interview about, like, oh, my dad is so great, and they're reading off the questions to him, you can see his, he's getting irritated, but you could also see that he's getting heartbroken because he knows that there's nothing there with him and his dad. It is zero. Even the story he ends up telling, it was Connor that took him on this fishing trip. And when his dad, calls him out for him, was like, oh, you have daddy issues. He's like, no, it's fine. But yeah, he does. Of course he does. And it's not daddy issues. It's his parents neglected him in all the worst ways and have now left him this, like, really broken guy that hides behind all this, bravado and nasty comments and spoiled rich kid, but he's a broken soul.
I think if I was to do like my Succession power rankings in my head for this episode, I think Roman is number one. I loved Roman in this episode. I thought all of the stuff was really good. Surprising even me, Tom is now number two. Tom is moving up in my book, but
I really like Tom.
Yeah, I love Tom in this episode, but I loved Roman in this episode. He didn't even have even that much screen time. But the funniest thing is that the whole episode, I assumed that I bought in that the story with the fishing trip with his dad was real, but I had sort of interpreted it as my head as, okay, well, I'm sure he did go fishing with his dad, but his dad was probably like on the phone the whole time, or like screaming and berating at him for not catching a big enough fish, or like it was something like that. And then they flipped it, like you said, it was Connor who did it. And that was such a well-written, nice surprise for me. And of course it was like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Like, of course it's going to be Connor. And of course that's going to make it all the more heartbreaking that Roman doesn't have a single good story to stand on with his father.
Not one story. He couldn't get one story together, and it really exposed the neglect that was there for Roman. I just think that Roman is really one of the most fascinating characters on TV in general.
I think we're starting to set up now for CEO Roman. Like I'm really starting to feel this a little bit because even like Logan sort of called him out for being smart when it comes to the letter, where he's not putting his name out there, he's ducking, he's covering.
Yeah, that's the thing about Roman, and it's been solid with Roman since season one.
Yeah.
Roman comes up with these really smart, interesting ideas that Logan really likes, but because of his self confidence, where, he'll give out this great idea, and at the end of it, he'll be like, take it or don't, I don't care, I don't care, that he'll have such low self confidence. Nobody takes it seriously. Nobody actually listens to it when he really is one of the smartest guys in the room who drops great ideas all the time, all the time. But his lack of confidence is getting him ignored.
I'm starting to debate in my head which Game of Thrones character Roman is because I'm pretty sure it's either Tyrion or Littlefinger, and I can't make up my mind as to which one.
No, I think Tyrion, sort of good idea, man. Nobody listens to.
No, but yeah, I think Roman was outstanding in this episode. I think we are set up so well with this whole elaborate FBI raid now for some absolute just chaos coming up.
Yeah, I can't wait for the next episode.
Well, for now though, let us know what you guys thought about Succession season 3 episode 3 in the comments. And if you were Shiv, would you have done the same thing to Kendall after just that absolute awful terrible thing that he did?
Yes,
Are you
10 out of 10, Shiv. I absolutely would have burned him to the ground.
I understand it fully. Like, just let us know what you thought about all this. Hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you here next time.